All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another PS Enablement Office Hours. I'm the host today, and my topic is probably a bit of a refresh for a lot of people. It's GitLab collaboration through issues and merge requests. So I want to cover this just to kind of get a baseline setup of how I expect us to collaborate through issues and merge requests across the different code bases we have and different delivery kits and stuff like that. So I'm going to walk through an example of us making a change to the congregate code base, specifically documentation, and we're going to walk through what the expected steps are when we're making changes to our code bases. So I will share my screen real quick to find the right one to go to. I think it's this one. Sweet. Okay. So we're going to work out of the congregate project for this example. I put in the notes doc kind of what steps we're going to walk through with this. So I've been here long enough where we used to say the phrase everything starts with an issue. I think now we've changed it to everything starts with a merge request. I think either option is totally fine, and I think it depends on the use case for what makes the most sense. I want to start with an issue for this example, so we can work from making an issue to a merge request to getting that change merged in. So first things first, let's find something that we need to update. So I was going through the repo earlier today, looking through some documentation I recently created for our new migrating data with via direct transfer. It's a feature we're in the process of building out fully in Congregate. And as I was scrolling through the docs, I noticed I actually have a typo here, and that would be right down here. We can see that I tend to throw in like just, XML looking tags into my docs, and Markdown tends to just ignore that because Markdown parses HTML. So this is the change that I want to make it easier to read. So I'm going to start in our issue tracker. I'm going to make a new issue. I'm going to just say update direct transfer docs, properly formatted URL. So I just want to throw in a quick description of what's going on here. This is a one-liner, so I would normally just do a merge request and then ping someone on Slack for this, but I want to walk through the full process of, if we're making bigger changes here. Typing all this out is going to be longer than actually just doing the work. So it's a good moment to kind of think about how long does it take you to write an issue versus just fixing something. So now that I've got a quick description and our built-in task is very fitting, we are just updating docs. We can also walk through a couple of extra parts when making an issue. I want to assign this issue to myself because I'm going to be doing the work. I want to assign some labels. So the one thing that's kind of a challenge for us internally at GitLab is we have probably not even being hyperbolic in this. We probably have like millions of labels to work with. It's probably more in the several thousands really, but it is a lot, and it's hard to really go through because we sit so far down in the hierarchies of GitLab org and GitLab com. So in the notes doc, I posted a list of the labels that we track in practice management that we roll up into our boards to keep an eye on all the different improvements that we make across our code bases, delivery kits, GitLab projects in general. So I want to add a priority label to this. Realistically, this is like a P2 to me. I'm not super worried about it, but we should, do some work on it. If it was a P1, right, we need to jump into it and really address it. The congregate project itself has its own set of labels because since it's such a big project and it's been around for so long, we have a series of different ways to segment and describe what specific issues address what specific part of the code base. So I'm just going to give it a priority 2 and a congregate docs label just to say like what this fix is doing. And then I'll create the issue. With the issue created, the next step here is we can just create a merge request from the issue. You also have the option, if you have an existing branch, you can also do that. I'm going to just click create merge request. And this has a couple of nice things, right? This This sets the draft status, which is a big important part to me when it comes to making changes, to tell someone that this is not ready to merge. I'm going to assign the MR to myself as well. I'm going to hold off on reviewers for now, and then I'm just going to click create merge request and grab my other notes. Yep. So the other piece too, when you create a merge request from an issue, it also adds the closes clause to it. So we have a direct tie from the MR to the issue. So when the MR merges, we close out the issue. It keeps it all connected. From here, I'm going to open up our web IDE. This is a one-liner change really. So we'll go in when making bigger changes to the congregate documentation. I recommend pulling it down locally, doing a poetry install, so you can run mkdocs, which is the doc gen tool we use. For this, it's a typo, so like I'm just updating a piece of markdown. I'm going to scroll down to the spot. We can see I tend to throw this kind of formatting in where it's like a fill in the blanks situation. To avoid markdown ignoring it, we will give it some backticks so that it knows just to render it as like a code block. While I'm here, I'm going to double check to make sure I didn't skip anything. Yeah, that's all stuck in different code blocks. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to commit the change. Also, I'm a big fan of really descriptive commit messages. I don't really like when someone just says like, oh God, I hope this works. But also, you're in the middle of writing some code. Do what you gotta do. I'm not gonna judge too hard. I care that the code works at the end of the day. But it is helpful in thinking about future you, making sure that it's as descriptive as possible, but also no need to write an essay. Guilty of that myself. So I'm gonna commit the change, and looks like we're all good. I'm just gonna go back to the merge request. I'm going to refresh it. We can see that this is going to kick off a couple things. Notice that the merge is blocked because we need some approvers. And also we can just take a look at kind of what's happened. So we've made some change to the markdown, fixed it up. And I would call this good at this point. This is ready for me to assign a reviewer. So I'm going to edit this real quick. Uncheck mark as draft. Save the changes. I know I can assign reviewers here, but I'm just going to go do it from the spot. I want to assign my usual suspects, even though Glenn's probably the one that's going to go through it. But we have approvers set up in Congregate and actually across most of our projects here. I'm just going to assign the usual 3. And now that I've assigned reviewers, it's on them to take a look at it and see if it's worth doing the getting this stuff merged in. So it's always good to have a second opinion on your changes, even if it's something as minimal as this. It's just nice to have a quick sanity check to make sure get formats correctly. I'm also going to view the file real quick just to make sure Markdown renders it as expected, which it does. And that is kind of a very quick summation of what that looks like. So Glenn, I'm going to need you to do a quick review and approve it while that's happening, because this is going to have to run a pipeline. I do want to show a more descriptive, in-depth example of this. So recently, we've had a good chunk of merge requests coming into the Congregate project. I'm going to use the MR I created last Friday as an example. So we went through the same process of there is an issue created. Actually, this affected 2 issues, so I updated our closes clause. Once I was ready for the review, we scroll through the activity, you can see I created it, assigned it to myself, worked through a series of commits over the past few weeks. Once it was ready, I removed the draft status, and then the code review started. And we can see over the course of a few days, Glenn and Petter made some suggestions. I made some updates based on that review. And this even led to follow-up issues across some of the different comments. More changes were made. And then we can see that once it got all the way done, Petter approved it. And then since I have merge rights and I had the approval, I was able to merge it in. So it's important, there's all these commits up front, but then even with all the additional reviews, we had more changes that were put in to make things a bit easier to work with. One of which was increasing our polling interval in this example. I had it set to 10. Glenn wanted to go on the more conservative side. We set it to 30. This led to another merge request into another code base because it was a generic function we could reuse somewhere else. I had a dry run functionality, again, as a comment from Glenn and Petter. And then even more changes because, stuff gets missed, and having an extra pair of eyes on it definitely helps. So we go back to the merge request that I just created. Header. Perfect.
Like, I'm hitting refresh to get the email, then I finally just went to Congregate to look for the merge request, and he'd already approved it. I'm like, cool.
That's awesome. And then he also set it to merge automatically because it's a quick change. So cool. He didn't realize he was in the demo. Perfect. So yeah, this was also because I had to fix our docs site, and this needed to get kicked off so we could actually generate a full pipeline. So now we've got that running. Yeah, so that's kind of it. It's a pretty short demo, and I probably ran through it a little bit fast, but to me, it's the little details that help to make it a much better experience across the board for all of us collaborating. I've seen this recently too, where with Aaron and Scott and Francis, where they've created delivery kits, they've modified delivery kits, and even if that's just, hey, here's a README of how to do something, having someone else review it, take a look at it, is always going to yield a better product. Scott's recent auto scaling Docker runner delivery kit had a bunch of eyes on it once he released it. I think we've even made a couple of changes since then. Aaron made some updates to, I think, one of our Geo delivery kits, and I think Francis built out another one as well. So it's good to have that. It's just kind of it's a good practice. We're a distributed team. There's a couple of exceptions where I think we don't really need to have the several approvers and all that, and it's usually a small subset. So I would say the script playground is pretty much do what you want with it. It's kind of your place to store scripts. And outside of that, really all of our other code bases, I expect some kind of a code review process. There's none of us are evil geniuses. At least I hope none of us are. So it's a safe space for us to make changes and ask for some help. So yeah, that's it. That's a pretty short demo. I promise the next time I do a session, it'll be way more interesting than just issues. But I want to make sure we had kind of a level set of what I expect from code contributions and delivery kit contributions in the future. Any questions?
Well, on my end, that was very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. To me, this kind of thing is important to refresh anyway. So we should be doing this, even if it's just quick 15, 20, 30-minute sessions on, hey, here's how plan works. Here's how CI/CD works, that kind of thing. Here's the things available to us. So constantly refreshing on that training. We work in a big platform with a lot of changing components. So it's good to have that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. One thing I kind of glossed over, and it's because I think it's a fairly new feature. If any of you had noticed in the recent what's happening at GitLab, I think it was Kai that mentioned our code review. Now, if you look at you can see the specific review status of your reviewers. I kind of glossed over that in the screen share, but you can see if someone had approved it, if someone left comments, or if someone just straight up did not approve it at all. So there's a little bit of color coding just to help get a better screenshot or snapshot of what's going on. But yeah, that's it for this one. I think what's the next session, Glenn? Is it for not later today, but in December? That's Aaron's session.
Yeah, we'll have Aaron doing limitations or features with reference architectures and containerization. And then we're going to have the bonus session on December 8th of plan functionality is Max actually doing that one?
I think Max is doing that one.
Okay. I've got Brian on there right now. I'll put Max in. And that will be it for a while. I think. Yep. So there we go.
I'll stop recording on this one. I think we're all set for this.
Excellent.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is our second session for the Enablement Open Office hours. The topic today is pretty light. It is collaborating through issues and merge requests. If you look in the notes doc, kind of covered like what we're going to go through. This is going to feel very remedial or like a refresher for most of us, but just wanted to make sure that we're all kind of familiar with how to go through the process of starting a discussion or a code change or something through an issue and working our way up into a full change. So I'm going to share my screen and we will jump into that. All right, so we're going to move into the congregate repo and just do a really basic change. So unfortunately, I found a really great code change this morning and recorded it, and it was very smooth. And I'm trying to find something else that's like small and broken, but I'm having a tough time. So I'm going to do something really basic, and we're going to have some participation with Mike because I need an approver to go through this process. Y'all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So I've been here long enough, and Mike might remember this as well, that we used to say everything starts with an issue. Now we say everything starts with a merge request. And I think for both are totally reasonable, right? If we're in the middle of something, we want to make some code changes, might as well just jump into the merge request and get that done. But if we have some more time to think through something, or it's not really just a code change, it's more, long-term initiatives, kind of like we were talking about before we started recording, we should start it with an issue and then kind of go from there. So I'm mostly going to walk through creating an issue, how to kind of add some more detail around the issue, getting it into a merge request, and then merging the code. So I'm looking at this kind of more as for our developers, since recently we've had more contributions to our delivery kits, to our tooling, and stuff like that. So from here, I'm going to create a new issue in the congregate repo. It's going to be a really basic issue. I'm just going to say add blank space to a file because I'm coming up short on ideas. And so I'm going to start with an issue to say this is what I want to do. I'm going to go through assigning it. Then for my labels, it's good to cover adding some labels, adding some detail. It's how we can kind of like sift through it. We sit in an unfortunate spot where GitLab org and GitLab com are filled with labels because of just how far deep down the hierarchy we're at. And so I want to add two things here. I want to add a congregate label, which we have a handful of them. And then also in the notes doc, I linked to different labels that we use in practice management. I'm going to give this a priority 3 because this does not really matter. I'll be right back. There's a timer going off.
He's probably cooking something
Was
good.
great. Now that he's gone, let's talk about Atlassian.
Can we address the migration aspect? I know that we're not on feature parity with their solutions. However, how much overlap is there and how much of a lift would it be for us to mash up our APIs and affect a migration workflow?
I was actually completely kidding. I promise I was kidding.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
You can't say you're kidding to an engineer when it comes to problem solving.
I'll just set up like a once a week hour-long meeting that's called Jira complaining session, and we can all jump in and have a good time.
I love that. I love that.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
Okay, so yeah, from here, this is just an example issue. Have some labels with it, and I'm going to create a merge request. And from there, I'll assign it to myself. I'm going to hold off on the reviewers for now. Create the merge request, and since we're going to make just some empty file changes, once we have the MR created, what I like is when we're making changes to any of our projects in GitLab, I like us to have the merge request opened up as soon as possible, just to kind of see the work that's going on. And so as we're going through, we can kind of track the progress of what someone's working on. If they're stuck, they can just share that with the larger community and say, hey, I'm running into some problems. Here's the MR. To me, it's good to have the draft status present when you're making a merge request, because we're going through a large code change or a large documentation change, or you're midway through updating our delivery kits, but it doesn't say draft. It's possible that all the pipelines could pass and someone could just merge it in because they think it looks good. So it just kind of helps to add an extra guard to the process. So I'm going to open up our web IDE, and then go find one of our docs. I'm going to go back into our direct transfer. This is what I used this morning. And I wish I had something else that was broken, because I had such a great thing this morning, but totally could not find a second thing. Not that it's perfect, it just required me to dig more than I really wanted to. Cool. That's going to be like the laziest reviewed change ever. I'm also going to probably close this MR out because this is not super important. But what I want to show is, once we've walked through creating the issue, we've made a change and I think is ready to go. I'm going to edit this. I want to say it's no longer a draft. So that we've removed one gate to say, hey, this is ready. Let's go through a review. And then I'm going to assign Mike to this since he's one of our approvers. And now that we've got that, we've walked into the code review state of the process. Mike, you don't have to approve it or merge it. It's super basic. But I want to show an example of where this works out really well, kind of in a much larger scale. With the recent direct transfer work that I've been working on, this is a long-running merge request. This ran about a month long. Started off with me creating 2 issues. From there, I started building out the MR. Signed it to myself right when I created it. We can see the paper trail of the different commits made, header keeping it up to date with a milestone. We can see that updated again. And then, after about a month of work, I marked it as ready and I assigned all my reviewers. Header, Glenn, and Mike started going through it, and we can see again this kind of all the conversations around what the changes were. And yeah, from there we worked through it. We made some more changes. We can see from Glenn's suggestions, I made more changes. From Petter's suggestions, even more changes, and through that back and forth, hopefully that helped to keep the paper trail of what happened and ideally made a better end result than just me going in and merging what I had done before I went through any review. I'm a big fan of always having a second opinion on stuff like this as we're going through different bits of work. It's important that we have some structure around it, create it all in issues, go through a merge request. This is probably the most boring topic we're going to have in our enablement office hours. Certainly more boring than what we've been jumping into a little bit recently. So yeah, that's kind of it. That's pretty much the ideal situation there. So it's mostly just to make sure that we understand kind of some of the key pieces, because it's a lot of little details, but it's important to make sure that we're practicing some good practices that we can also reflect when we're working with our customers. So yeah, that's the session. Yeah, kept it very short. That's pretty much the topic. So we got the rest of the hour, so I will stop sharing and I can stop recording too. If there's any questions, I can't imagine there are, but by all means, what do you guys got? if we're gonna talk about Jira, I'll just stop recording.
Just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It's a good, a healthy reminder.
Yeah, no problem. I think the next two topics are going to be a lot more in depth. So those are going to be around in the coming weeks. Aaron's doing a really cool topic on where is it? His next topic is limitations or features with reference architectures. That's gonna be great. I think that's a good session for everybody on this call to hop on, just so we understand from a scoping perspective all the way to delivery. And then the 8th, the practice team, I think Max specifically is going to be doing a much more in-depth demo of our plan functionality. So I'm gonna stop recording now, but we can keep the call going afterwards.